Yo, Dad, how's my twerking?
What?
Was it good?
No.
Yeah, I was practicing, you know? I'm trying to get on my Nicki Minaj stuff, you know what I mean? Bobby. Turn the camera, turn it. Yo guys, what is up? In this video, I'm reacting to Film Theory. Hey Fallon, you're doing it wrong. Alright, it's a theory about Jimmy Fallon. I don't know what the theory is, because it's not really showing a lot. But, we can, you know... Shit! Sorry, I just played the video. Let's just get into the video, alright? Yeah. 3, 2, 1.
Colbert, Jimmy 1, Jimmy 2. I've called you all here for one important reason, so listen up. You can't shoot any more late night shows here in our beautiful, overly expensive studio. So congratulations, you're all YouTubers now. Meet your new audience, boys.
Let's go, 5-year-olds.
Hey there, sport. You, like jokes about politics and Karen?
Shut up and play Fortnite, old man.
Kicking the balls.
Uh-oh.
It's Film Theory with Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, generic image of a man, generic image of a woman, and of course your host, a two-dimensional cutout vaguely animated to have emotion, matpat. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory. We're living in strange times, aren't we? Handshakes aren't cool anymore. We're not just allowed, but encouraged to be wearing face masks into places you probably shouldn't be wearing face masks normally, like gas stations, banks, and liquor stores.
Yep.
And most strangely of all, late night television shows are doing something unheard of. They're being forced to change. Let me give you a little bit of backstory here. It was 1954 when Tonight starring Steve Allen, the precursor to The Tonight Show, first hit the national airwaves. At the time, the concept of a live late night show was so fresh, so new that Steve Allen basically had to explain to his national audience what they were seeing in the first episode.
That was actually a live picture you were looking at. That was not movie film. You were actually seeing Times Square here in New York City.
But audiences in 2020 need no explanation.
Facts.
Mostly because they've been watching the exact same formula for 64 years. This is that 1954 broadcast.
From New York City, the National Broadcasting Company presents Tonight, starring Steve Allen.
And this is from this year.
From 30 Rockefeller Plaza here in New York City. It's the Tonight Show starring
Jimmy Fallon.
Wait, hold on, let's try this actually. This might be fun. Let's turn the screen black and white.
You record, you get
in
kicked
that
out, you
aspect
go out, you
ratio,
stay out.
add a bit of that old-time graininess to it. And lastly, Yossi, Audio Master. Let's crank up that treble and turn down that bass. Now let's play this whole thing again.
From 30 Rockefeller Plaza here in New York City. It's the Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon.
Ha! It is just like the 50s. Sure, we have better cameras and sound, but the formula is still the same. Then, just as it started to feel like late-night shows would continue doing their best impressions of a 50s-era variety show for the rest of eternity, everything changed in the blink of an eye. Early March 2020, with social distancing orders imminent in California and New York, many late-night shows announced that they would continue shooting episodes in studio, but without the studio audience present.
Only people in the audience right now are some members of my staff. Hi, guys.
Almost immediately thereafter, many of those same shows changed their minds. And
It's like, back then you had like a whole crowd of people, you're like, yo, these are my fans, yeah, yeah. Now you just have your freaking, you know, producers and shit. It's like, they just don't even find your jokes funny. You're just like, no. You say a joke, and they're like, get off the stage, get someone back. That's just...
elected to suspend production outright in order to protect their staff and crews, which makes sense because the staff and crews of these late night shows are massive. I mean, get a load of how many people are credited on Colbert's January 10th episode alone. If you're counting along at home, that is 23 writing credits,
more people in my house.
39 producer
Minus
credits.
20.
Who knew that it took that many people to rip off YouTuber formats?
Bundy Beach.
Butter Beach.
Bundy Beach.
Butter Beach.
Bundy Beach.
Butter
Then, one by one, the late night shows all re-emerged in their quarantine form.
I can
These
do that
episodes
myself. I'm doing it right now.
pared down production values and were shot from the host's
I work harder than
homes
all these
while in
people.
quarantine. Celebrity guests started dropping by via video conference. The host's own family stepped in as iPhone camera operators and recurring guests.
At home, my wife is a cameraman.
Cameraman.
He's a musician. Thank you so much.
My crew is still one of my children. Tonight, it is my son, John.
Which, can I just say, is a bit curious, because all the big late night programs are union productions. Bit skeptical that Colbert's college-age son is a card-carrying member of Yahtzee, and I doubt Fallon's kids, who are getting a bunch of screen time these days, are up on their SAG-AFTRA rules, or that COPPA is okay with the amount of work they're putting into their productions. But hey, you know, I could be wrong. The point here is that gone with the slick sets, gone with the studio bands, gone with the couches and desks and audiences required to laugh at every mundane, tired joke. Overnight, late-night talk show hosts got turned into low-budget YouTubers. And as any homegrown YouTuber will tell ya, it means that they've been left with no safety nets to protect them against the biggest fear of them all, the cringe. Boy, has there been a lot of cringe. So today, as a homespun YouTuber myself, I'm analyzing their performance. Which late-night celebrity turned out to be the best YouTuber? What lessons did they need to learn while working out of their at-home studios? And what does all of this mean for the future of late-night programming? Outside of me never getting invited onto one of these shows ever, because everyone's gonna be bitter at me about this episode. Sorry, not sorry. Before we dive in, a little housekeeping up front. There are a whole lot of late-night shows out there, so I'm gonna have to limit today's conversation to the following list: Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, James Corden, Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers, Conan O'Brien, and Trevor Noah. We're only gonna look at major US late night shows that have transitioned to doing quarantine version episodes of their show from home multiple times per week. So if a show isn't producing new episodes at the moment, or only did one episode a week to begin with, well, then they're not part of today's discussion. So with all that out of the way, I've taken the liberty of pouring through hours and hours of these new low-budget quarantine version episodes, and here's what your friendly neighborhood YouTube coach matpat is seeing across the board. First off, I am seeing some really unflattering camera angles there, people. You are professionals. You are adults. You are trained in this industry. We're trying to decrease the number of chins, not increase them, people. So let's get that camera eye level or higher. Kimmel, Conan, what are you doing? We understand that you don't have wardrobe, makeup, or hair departments at the moment. Nobody is faulting you for that, but you can absolutely get your camera up at eye level. Points off for both of you, gentlemen. Next up, let's talk delivery. There's something to be said for sticking with what you do best, but then again, when you actually see some of these late night hosts delivering jokes the exact same way that they do to a live studio audience, well, that's when the cringe really starts to set in. You're talking to a camera, not a theater filled with live bodies who are forced to react to everything that you say. Seth Meyers is especially guilty of holding for laughs when there's no studio audience present.
The Treasury Department has ordered that President Trump's name will be printed on relief checks, which would be the first time he's ever put his name on something helpful.
Man, there are no laughs coming, my friend. Everyone is always eager to make fun of how frenetic YouTubers are with their smash cuts every few seconds. But there's a reason for that. The internet runs at a mile a minute, and pauses in this universe are used to show that something is awkward, not that something is funny. You let it sit and hang because it's uncomfortable. Memes, graphics, sound effects. These are the things that punctuate jokes and serve as transitions, filling the gaps in where a laugh track would normally be. Granted, delivering a joke to an empty room isn't ideal. I know that as well as anybody. But when you're delivering jokes out of your poorly lit living room, the presentation of your jokes kinda needs to match your surroundings. Points to Jimmy Kimmel for actually recognizing this thing and adjusting accordingly. Back in mid-March, Kimmel was doing mini-logs, basically the exact kind of stand-up jokes that you'd see in a fully produced show in studio, and he was doing it seated at his desk.
Here's something I learned. Did you know that you can make coffee at home for yourself? I even spelled my name right on the cup.
I'm not saying that it's a bad joke. I'm saying that it's written and delivered in a way that doesn't match the medium it's being delivered through. When you see someone face to the camera vlogging to a lens in an unlit YouTube video, there's a certain expectation that the audience has, whether they can articulate it or not, that you're about to do something raw. You're about to go off script, something conversational and unpolished as opposed to fully scripted and crafted. And it seems like Kimmel and his team did eventually get the memo, because come April, he was back to delivering his monologue on his feet, on a homemade set with production values slightly more aligned with his more polished jokes. TLDR, when the camera's not angled up Kimmel's nostrils, everyone wins. The long and short of it is that the medium and the message have to align. Are you doing an up-close handheld vlog-style video? Well, then you have to make it raw, unpolished, a bit more off the cuff. Do you need to stay on script? Well, in that case, have it be a bit more polished and presentational. Stand up, find a nice backdrop that serves as a sort of set. You know who's crushing it right now? Someone who is never a late-night host. John Krasinski in his show Some Good News, which takes the homespun appeal and fuses it with the polish of a more scripted format. So I gotta give the W of this episode. Wait, Some Good News was bought by Viacom, and John Krasinski is no longer hosting, and it's going behind the CBS All Access paywall? That is some bad news right there. Also, real galaxy brain idea there, Viacom. Let's buy this thing that was successful for being raw and organic and homespun and free, and eliminate the host, his family, and I would guess all of the homemade elements that made it popular in the first place, which, it's worth noting, was also less than 10 episodes, many of which had massive reunions of huge casts for celebrity cameos, which, you know, would kinda artificially inflate those numbers, but you know what, whatever. I'm sure that people will pay for a show that they were watching for free, that they literally just learned about less than a few weeks ago. Alright, so with that W very quickly turned into an L. Second place goes to Trevor Noah and The Daily Show. Unlike his late night peers, Noah is embracing all sorts of classic, battle-tested YouTuber tactics that stave off the cringe. Unlike his in-studio show, Noah's The Daily Distancing Show really has the feel of a YouTube video. For one thing, he freely uses JPEGs and sound effects to aid in his jokes.
While the rest of us are trying to figure out if we can grow tomatoes by planting some ketchup. Spoiler alert. You can.
In fact, the Daily Distancing Show applies all sorts of YouTube-style editing tricks to inject energy. We're talking jump cuts, pushing into tighter angles, doing conversations with yourself as different characters.
People even do it with jokes. Oh my god, Nigerians are funny. Indians do that all the time.
This is the kind of stuff that top YouTubers pioneered on the platform
You're gonna
over
get this
a
handwork.
decade ago.
That's fine.
First year of being single. I'm damn fine. I do not need no boy to make me happy. Second year of being single.
I mean, this is YouTube 101 stuff here, people. Top YouTubers were doing this in 2008 and in 2013. And, you know, we're still doing it in 2020, and finally traditional media is like, huh, this is an interesting idea. But of course, all of this is just my opinion, right? What I really want to know is whether the numbers agree with me. If Trevor Noah's doing so great with his new at-home show that riffs on a bunch of YouTube tropes while other hosts aren't, then the numbers would presumably be able to confirm that. So let's look at the Nielsen ratings and gospel stats for each of the little shows on our list. What I'm curious about is how the TV ratings, YouTube views, and YouTube subscriber numbers for each of the shows have fared during the pandemic. To give us a baseline, let's look at each show's numbers at the end of January, immediately before the global health crisis was announced on January 30th. This should give us a sense of how each late night show was doing on TV, as well as on YouTube back in the good old days before we were all locked in our little prisons. So with those January numbers in hand, let's compare them against the first month of quarantine version late night shows, March 20th through April 20th. When we crunch the numbers, the heat map looks a little something like this. First takeaway from the data set, none of the late night show YouTube channels gained more views during the quarantine. In fact, most experienced a significant decrease in total views. That strikes me as super weird because YouTube has been getting a ton of traffic during the quarantine. So much so, in fact, that YouTube has had to lower video quality on the site in order to handle the surge of viewership. Perhaps the quarantine versions of late night shows were a bit too homemade for the subscribers' tastes. Whatever the reason, though, it seems like the kings of late night broadcast are not yet the kings of new media broadcast. Second takeaway, I gotta give myself a big old pat on the back for this one. The Daily Show with Trevor Noah is killing it compared to his peers. Their YouTube views have stayed stagnant, but look at that surge in subscribership. During the first 30 days of quarantine, he got 470,000 new subscribers. That's more than any other late night YouTube channel accrued during that time. And the Daily Show's YouTube channel is much smaller than some of the other late night channels out there. What's more, the Daily Show with Trevor Noah is gaining more subscribers per month in quarantine than they were in January. So no matter how you slice it,
that just says you gotta stop doing the actual show and do it, home. It just says that.
The
kinda
YouTube
sad, actually.
viewers are subscribing
But in a
to The
good way.
Daily
What?
Show like they never have before. Most likely because it's the only one of these shows that's actually speaking in the language of YouTube. But of course, that's just YouTube. Surely a show like that wouldn't resonate with broadcast audiences on the TV, right? Wrong. Believe it or not, The Daily Distancing Show saw such a spike in broadcast viewership that the show's total viewers season average jumped 28% in under 3 months.
guy's
That's right,
doing
by shooting a
madness.
low-budget version of the show at home, Trevor Noah and his team have actually improved their television ratings dramatically. Conversely, take a look at the subscription column of our handy heat map. Fallon, Corden, Colbert. Not only were these shows unable to maintain their subscribership rates, they saw a drop in subscribers during a remarkably high traffic period of time in YouTube history. On the television side, their numbers either didn't fluctuate at all, or they only saw incremental increases. Nothing compared to what the Trevor Noah show is doing. So the question becomes, what does all of this mean? Why is any of this important? I mean, if a late night host like Trevor Noah can make the show out of his living room and actually gain ground on his late night peers not only on YouTube, but in broadcast as well, maybe there are some lessons here that late night shows can take to heart. What might those lessons be? Well, I got some theories. Theory 1,
TV
guests
show.
won't physically come into the studio as often. When the late night shows did away with in-studio celebrity guests for a month, their broadcast ratings weren't hurt. So maybe it's time to re-examine whether contemporary audiences need or expect their celebrity guests to actually be in studio.
Bro, just pump
Other
YouTubers,
industries
man.
are figuring
You'll
out
be
that
a lot- you're
telecommuting
more
can work.
successful,
Why not
even though
late
they're
night?
really
Theory number
successful
2,
already.
late night shows will see
don't
their
need more
budgets start to
success.
shrink. Networks love saving money. In fact, a big reason why The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon moved to New York after Jay Leno retired was because the show could save $20 million annually on tax credits. And the quarantine has helped
might as
highlight a
well.
couple of
20 million,
areas
that's
where
a lot.
costs could get trimmed. But here's the biggest and most important takeaway. Theory number 3. Digital is indeed the future. We've talked about it for years now about how YouTube is paving the way for entertainment, and I've made no small deal about how I'm pro Team Internet over here. But here
And of
is
course.
your proof in the pudding right now, traditional media. The numbers don't lie. One of the oldest
What?
television show formats in history starts showing better numbers when they started producing like YouTubers. And not
Oh my
just
God.
on YouTube, but also
Kimmel on
on
the top
broadcast
brass.
television.
Traumatizing.
Popular opinion is changing. What people want to watch is evolving. Audiences are looking for something different. Some good news is yet another example of that. The times, they are a-changin'. The question is, traditional media, are you willing to change with it? At the very least, are you just gonna give us YouTubers some respect finally? Because y'all seem to be failing pretty hard when it comes to doing our job. But hey, that's just a theory.
A
film
film
theory.
theory.
And subscribe so that my numbers can actually trash the numbers of those late.
Okay, see, they always talking crap like, oh no, so YouTubers they're false, you know, all that junk in that. Look at them struggling. Well, the other one Seth, what was his name again? I forgot. Seth Meyers. I don't know. The black guy. That's messed up. The light skin. The guy is doing good. My man got 170k, some 270k, like more. How this man's doing? He's doing better than some YouTubers, which is another bird. What are you doing on my roof? Yeah. If you guys enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.